What's up, guys? We have another Build Beauties today, and now this time I have a very special guest, a good friend of mine. Go ahead and introduce yourself, sir.
What's up, Frank, guys? Kevin Dennis here. Just talking about a little deck I have here, Conflict Hero Boo.
Yes, Conflict Hero Boo of all things. I've seen a lot of manipulative Hero Boo played by people, and I've seen it do really good. I know Black Blue does very well. But you chose arguably like the weakest mastery in
I know
Black.
it's
Between
not
this and
good. It's not
Perceptive, it's
good.
honestly kind of a tie game here. But why did you choose Conflict Boo?
Uh, it's a good question.
Oh boy.
Uh, so okay, so your three masteries you have I forget which online tournament it was. It was the one tournament I entered, and TJ Corcoran ended up playing a manipulative Hero Boo deck, and I'm like, wow, like that game right there. Um, really showed me one of the best parts about Hero Boo.
Mm.
And what I learned in that game was that you can actually um, pull away. It's like you can, in terms of how much damage you push, attacks, and just that survival. Doing dealing life cards to your opponent kind of aspect of winning the game. You can consolidate a lot of that in your power and your NP powers, your attacks with Hercule on your 1 through 4. um, and it can free up some deck space to do a little wonky stuff. So you can say some decks might play like 15, 20 attacks. You can essentially play maybe like 15 attacks maximum plus his powers and still deal enough damage to where you might feel like you're running like 22, 23 attacks,
Yeah.
but also have those extra cards to dedicate to um, some different types of blocks, certain events you want to run, some setups because you always want to have some planning cards. You don't want to be completely devoid of planning cards. Um, and I really like the idea that he was using him in black because black's got a ton of powerful cards. Obviously, company allows you to have ally synergy in any style of your choosing, and it's life card attacks. And if you're going to do any kind of survival thing in black, you're probably going to want to use something that throws life card attacks. In terms of it can also provide a bit of a control element. So I like Boo for the idea that I can, play a little wonky deck and free up some deck space. So I figured what deck can I do that best in? Um, well, TJ played Black Boo against me, so I figured I'd try Black as well. But I wanted to explore him differently because okay, so he already ran Manipulative Boo. I'm like, okay, I'll try another mastery. Perceptive, definitely not going to happen. You're throwing freestyle attacks all day. It's a bad mastery. It's terrible.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk about perceptive. So it's between mischievous and conflict. Conflict. Honestly, the reason why I chose conflict because mischievous. Like I don't think I'm the very best builder when it comes to mischievous or the best pilot when using that mastery
Interesting.
because just the benefit where it's like the RNG factor. Um, I don't know. It's not something I'm comfortable playing. But then you look at conflict. You have the biggest thing with conflict is that yeah, you have Discord outlet. The other thing is also is that you have a lower crit threshold. Um, Boo level 2, 3, 4 all do 4 life cards. So I'm like, okay, well, conflict allows your power to threaten crit every time, unless you're on level 1. So yeah, let's just do conflict. That was the reason why was because his powers can deal crit. That's basically why I chose conflict. And then
That's not.
once
I
I
mean,
had
hey,
that down,
conflict
I kind of just
Vegito.
filled out the rest of the deck. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um. So yeah. I saw. I was turned on to what Boo can do. You know, saw that, wanted to put my own spin on it, and conflict's lower crit threshold is pretty much what drew me to it. So.
Nice. Well, one thing I will say is you mentioned that Boo has a lot of attacks in his MP levels, mainly because of B letting you double use them. So it almost feels like you're running, a good 5, 6 plus
Hmm.
extra attacks in the deck, which is something that I did one of these with Anthony Tardino, and he mentioned he did Resolute Hero Boo. And what he was saying
Hmm.
is
Yep.
it allowed him to run all these event cards, which I see that you run quite a few events and non-attack cards
I
in the deck.
do. I've even noticed it myself playing
Like
the deck.
like
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, like more than like actually the majority of the deck is not attacks. Half the deck is split into events setups. It looks like another half is like there's almost as many blocks as there are attacks, which is super interesting
Hmm.
because there's so few decks. Like the only decks I ever see that way are knowledge, because knowledge just gets free stuff for playing things. But I think that was really interesting. I think I'm definitely gonna come back to that aspect when we get to some of your card choices,
Uh-huh.
probably more in the vents. But let's move on to the board. So seems like a pretty
Okay.
standard board as far as the
Hmm.
allies go. You're always gonna run the two allies with Boo,
Yep.
but then you opted to run Ball 7 Earth. But I don't mean to jump into that tag line too much, but you don't run Blinding. So and you also don't have Black Power up the deck. So why'd you opt to run Ball 7 Earth?
Uh, I think. I mean, okay. So, a couple things of blinding is that one, you banish your own cards. Honestly.
Yeah.
Um. Uh. That's the biggest downside of it. You can banish anything. But if you look at Boo's level 2, his level 3, his level 4, they all say rejuvenate a card. So I don't feel completely comfortable with banishing cards from my deck. Plus, this deck's got a pretty decent amount of endurance. So
Hmm.
if one or two combats I take a little bit of damage, it's not the end of the world. Um, and then it's also an attack that you can throw into somebody's block. So, you want to end combat, you play blinding, and you want to get out. Say you're winning so far for the turn, play blinding, get out of combat, you won that combat. Okay, move on. But no, they play like dismissal, or they play speedy dodge, and they discard the card that you were going to hold. That you just attacked into something with you had the intent to get out and have everything just be nil, but you just got trumped by a good block.
That's fair. That's fair.
Um,
But
but also, um, go ahead. What you're saying?
oh,
What were
I
you
was
gonna
gonna say, why did you just? I mean, it's a one of card. Why did you have to slot it in?
say? Well, I mean, part of not playing blind was I don't want to be weak to non-style hate.
Hmm.
So I guess ball seven is one less card than blinding, and ball seven is just super duper free.
That's fair.
And I feel like if you're not gonna play Namek seven, then I think most decks you just want to play Earth Ball seven
Hmm. Interesting.
just to get out of a bad turn.
So you opted to run, and I know we'll bring it back to TJ here. I remember looking at his deck, and he did not run Candy Beam. And people
Uh
are
huh.
kind of, there. I think most people do run Candy Beam. Now you do run Candy Beam in yours, and you run the three
Hmm.
setups. Why did you choose to run the setups in Candy Beam?
Um. Now the good thing is with Hero Boo, that was unlike Evil Boo when he came out a set or two ago, is that the level one didn't help you get um your treats out of your deck. So that was, obviously a downside. That was if you play old Evil Blue, then you're gonna play probably without a Candy Beam or the treats. But the new Hero Boo, because you can
Well,
get them out of your deck pretty quickly.
you're talking about Super Boost stack, correct? The
Yeah, yeah,
choppy
yeah.
stack,
Sorry,
yeah. So
that's
because the
what I'm
previous
alluding
stack
to.
had the
Yeah.
level one that started them with out of the game, whereas this boo can let you pick them out of the deck.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So it gives you that ability. So, but I mean, it's also there to get company. But uh, regardless of that, you can make that a little bit live early on.
Hmm.
But anyway, the main point is that black is very very weak board, to board. And plus, Candy Beam also gets rid of nasty attach cards, which is always clutch. It may not be consistent, but when it does come up, you most of the time can't complain. Um, but yeah, it's mainly in there along with Whoop that we'll mention later. It just
Yeah,
addresses the board hate issue.
for sure. You go ahead and if you want to explain the rest of the board, if you'd like to.
Right, right, okay. So again, you have the treats. Talk about candy. Um, so I'll go to Tree Might. Tree Might is one, it's an unleashed target. Two, because of Boo's drill right up there next to the allies. Um, getting that out as early as possible is fantastic. Plus, if you're doing your MP power twice a turn, at least every level you're doing it twice a turn, and then Hercule is twice. Um, right then and there, if you use both, you're looking at 8 stages with tree mine attached. You're throwing so many attacks and just adding +2 to all those low value attacks in terms of damage just adds up. Not to mention you can go get your drill, which is insanely stupid. So, um, so yeah, but with all the anger, and then you have Unleash, I opted against running any other drills. So like Smoothness, Grudge Drill actually used to be in the deck, but I'm thinking that playing Tree, I can get more value out of Tree with the +2 stages.
What?
Um,
I'm blanking on Grudge Drill. Which one was Grudge Drill?
that is from
Is that the
it might have
one?
been 2 sets ago.
Is that the one
It's
that?
with Bulma and Videl or Chi-Chi and Videl like have like a
Oh,
static thing
oh
going
yes,
on.
yes. That's the one. That if you discard it, you can put it in play, and then after you discard it with a
Yes.
mastery effect, you draw a card.
Yep.
Okay.
It's obviously it's Conflict's best drill most likely.
Yeah, I was gonna
Um,
say that is okay. So yeah, sorry, I forgot the name of that drill, but yeah, I'm that not being in here is interesting because I feel like yeah, most
yeah. It
people. But you are leveling a lot, and you have no way to search it.
yeah. It used to be in here. Currently it's not in there. I mean, it's still good. It just depends on what's going on, like how I feel about the deck is you know in the previous 3 or 4 games. Um, but the fact that Tree can get my drill out, my name drill out, because I have no other tutors or other ways to get it out. Um, I think it's strong enough on its own. Plus with the +2. Then below you have Black Mist. Um, Conflict. I think Black Mist is a really good option because you're running commands. You're usually running something like Strength Display or schematics, foreshadowing. Um, but that's also a late add. Initially building it, I didn't even realize myself how many events I had in the deck, so it just made sense that I missed a little later on in testing.
Hmm.
Declaration, that's also something we just added. Um, Again, board hate's an issue. I think in black you have to add whatever you can in terms of board hate that doesn't distract away from what you're trying to do. Like Black Refusal is a good card. I do like it. TJ actually ran it in Manipulate, but it just doesn't have a place in this deck, especially because he can't play on the defense.
Yeah, your refusal is like actually like decent and manipulative because of that reason. You could just play as
Right.
like as a block, um, but as an attack, a 4 stage attack is just not good
hmm
at all.
Um, but yeah, Declaration again because you can put it in play with your Mastery. Can't go wrong with that. And plus it also has endurance, so that's good. It's never really dead. Then right above that you have Hercule and B. Don't have to really talk about that because that's the whole package.
Yep.
And then right below that you have BST. I think it's really hard to run any black deck that's not super aggro and not at least consider or already be playing BST as a 2 of. It's just too strong of a card. Um, Being able to crack your opponent's deck and just banish any 2 cards outright, not Dragon Ball, is just way too powerful.
Hmm.
It's single hand like if you go up against a deck that like hinges on 1 or 2 cards, the second you draw that, the game's over.
Yeah.
So it's a super powerful card. I think we all know that. You know that you have your own experience playing black, especially with Wheelo. BST is a crazy good card.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, Plus, again, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 deck cards. I think that's a good amount for me. Usually, if I'm playing less than 13 or 12, I get a little uncomfortable. I'm like, is this deck really good? How many times am I going to draw 2 blocks in an attack and have to pass and do nothing?
Yeah.
I don't think decks right now can get away with doing that.
Yeah, I've had a few conversations with people directly pertaining like kind of build ratios, and
hmm
and I've done it. Matter of fact, in my last 2 deck daddies builds, and kind of talking about how I'm not sure if this made it in the video, but we're talking about it's like if you're gonna like run anything more than like 10 planning cards, you just might as well either drop 7 Dragon Balls in there, or you should just go for like 20 planning cards because
Yeah,
like at
Wayne
this
said that I think.
at this point in the game where it's at, it's like you need to be able to just build up this stupidly strong board advantage, or you just need to just immediately be able to just like drop the board and enter still. And if you're anything in between, it just doesn't matter at this point. Like, um,
It's tough. I mean, you're not wrong. You either need to play really fast and keep up with everything else or outpace other things, or if you're not a deck that can do that, then play seven balls just so if you get bum rush, you still have an option to win. It's not wrong, you know.
yeah,
Hopefully, with new cards and new stuff, we can kind of fill in the gaps there.
yeah,
Kind of bring back that. I don't want to say mid-range area, but mid-range is definitely different than what it used to be.
yeah. So we'll kind of move on to the events here. There
Sure.
are oh God, the deck is like there's more events than attacks, which is like hilarious. But let's
20
run through.
events, by my count.
How many?
20, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think I counted just the bottom row earlier. I think I had like 12 or 13, but yeah, then there's yep 12 because there's the top row's 8. So let's talk about these events. Unleashed. I think it's like
Yeah.
no reason why you should run Unleashed with like most MPs in this game at
No.
this point. There's no reason
Nope.
not to. But
Plus, with company, it's really strong. There's no reason not to.
yeah, company being a turn one tutor to your hand that attaches. Like why wouldn't you run Unleashed? That just makes no sense. So
Hmm. But yeah, you have Unleashed, especially with after the nerf. So the nerf kind of brought the Unleashed ceiling down. So it's definitely going to open up things in the game that couldn't compete with people who level 2, 3 levels at a time. Saiyan, Red, and decks like that. Um, so uh, this deck kind of has a mix of anger and unleash, so you're leveling a lot. Um, so yeah, there's no reason not to run unleash. You can sometimes, if you play it right, you can get 4 attacks in play just from your MP powers. And unleash is going to basically open that up, so there's no reason not to run it.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, then after that you have 3 company. The card's got 3 endurance. This deck actually has a lot of endurance, as we'll see with the events right here. Um, as so reading it, it looks strong, but then when you actually play with it, like once you play with it, you realize how good it is. It's a single card engine. If you have one company attached, there are times where um I take a bunch, say like you draw one of your allies on a defensive combat, you take some damage, you drop an ally and just go pow. If you have company attached, you're basically going to draw your cards, play B or Hercule pass, and boom, at the end of any turn, you can get one of your allies back from your disco pile, whether it's B or Hercule. Um, the, the 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 card is crazy. It is very very strong. Plus, again, it attaches, so it's gonna be an unleashed target. And it fetches from the banner zone, which is strong. After that, you have Wolf. The second it came out, I think everybody's got to take a look at playing that card. It hits everything on the board. It's 1 endurance. It banishes. There's no reason not to consider running it. Boo, it's pretty silly if he's in play. It goes back in. No, it's a staple. Um, Overall in power, again, board hate. This black is naturally gonna have issues with board hate. Um, but because only power can crit when tutored at the level 1, and with boost high AT, I figured this was a would be a good ad to have in the deck. Plus it's styled, so I can always discard it with the mastery. So it's not going to be like a dead card in my hand 100% ever.
yeah,
Um, Below that, we got uh, 3 Black Foreshadowing, one of my favorite cards back in set 3. It just did everything. It gained stages. It milled a decent amount. Like it can mill up to 7 cards, and it gains you that many stages. So I've always felt it's a card that just does everything you want, like a black deck to do.
yeah. I was gonna say one thing is versus like manipulative mastery and mistress mastery that have
Right.
active banish powers. You don't have really many banish effects in this deck, so I suppose it really kind of feels like you're more banking on like your opponent to
Um.
play banish with these
So
cards.
So, I mean, we'll get to it in a moment, but if you look over in the physical attacks, Black Bite, it's one of my unleashed targets. While that's attached, all my non-styled attacks can either gain me 2 stages or choose a card in the opponent's banish pile and discard pile and banish it. So, believe it or not, there's a lot of banishment that comes out of that card by itself.
Hmm.
Because you're throwing Hercule, you're throwing your powers. I mean,
It,
I get it. I feel that, but
no, interesting. So
a lot,
it feels like it's similar in this deck to Company in that it kind of creates its own engine for this deck.
foreshadowing.
Sorry, the Black Bite, giving you the
Oh
banish
yeah,
pile.
yeah. Sorry.
It
It's
it it, it
as I've gotten it attached more consistently,
mhm.
the power that comes from it is revealing itself. It's a really good card. Plus, it's AT life. Again, you'll have 6 attacks in the deck. Black Lunge and Black Bite, both referring to Boo's powerful AT. So you got damage going along with it as well.
For sure. So when we back to the events, you got Black Command. It's just kind of
Yeah.
staple anger card.
Yeah, you're running conflict.
Yeah,
Boost
no
powers
reason not
also
to.
also raise your anger, so run 3 of those.
It's
And
a
then
it's a 3 anger gain
yeah,
in combat.
um, and sometimes even if you're at even if you don't need the 3 anger, you're still gonna get 2 anger and potentially 6 stages. Or if you don't need it, you can lower somebody else's anger to keep them from leveling.
Hmm.
But either way, it's a 2 anger play, so at minimum.
Nice.
After that, you have 2 black schematics. Um, Pretty much it ended up in the deck initially because it says got 3 endurance. It gets a drill. If I can get your checkup, the rejuve, and the free block would be great. But you have to think a lot of decks are at least every good deck is running at least one really good drill. Um, Black Spoonless, Muck Drill being a big one. Anything other than checkup you can steal from Orange. Everyone seems to be running a good drill. So that found its way in there, and I guess this next card, I don't really know how I feel about it. It's probably gonna loop back around to your same comment
Yeah.
about not being able to consistently banish cards. Black Reflection is a really good card with, say, Vegeta level 1 from Awakening. Perfect, fantastic card. But in this deck, not so much. It's probably gonna get cut at some point, but Reflection's like one of those cards that I just always look at because it's so cool. I love being able to steal an opponent's um, great attack and your banish. Um, it's kind of like the situation where you've seen that Family Guy meme or GIF of Peter talking about like the box. Like it's just a box. It could be anything. It could be a boat. It could be anything else. That's exactly what it is. Like
Yeah.
it's just a box. It could be anything. It could be a PowerPoint. It could be an AK. It could just be
It
whatever it wants to be.
for consistency's sake, you know, I've had a hard time adding this. I think I always look at this card
I
myself,
know.
and it's hard to run it when I'm not running like Black Scout Maneuver.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Because
Scout actually was in the deck prior to.
because
It's
Scout because like against Orange, Black Crown back in the day, Orange straight down, it's gone. Now I kill Orange's board. Normally Black can't
hmm
kill Orange's board. Um, that's like the strength of what Orange Reflection or sorry Black Reflection does, but without and I did see the
It also gives it
reflection.
back to him too.
Yeah, and I saw the reflection, the fortune, and I was like, it's curious because like I was going through because again I'm going through your cards to banish it. I'm like I think I like because other than bite and swipe, I suppose check as well. Okay, so like there are some cards that do
Yeah,
banish,
check banishes too. I mean,
you
it's
know,
it's
and
it's modest at best, but I mean, for the most part, foreshadowing is gonna rely on you know everyone's gonna have at least 3 different types.
yeah,
So
I
mill
think
3 gain 3 is not bad with 3 endurance.
yeah, no, that's fair. At worst, you can always pitch it with mastery and then rejuvenate it later.
Hmm.
So
Um,
and then
but
the
yeah,
strength display.
we just got done talking about reflection, strength display. Is that a recent add? Um, so part of this is with this deck, part of this philosophy is I can do a lot with my powers, and then I can also do a lot with the power of the black cards, and then let's see if I can kind of mitigate what you can do with your hand, as best I can without kind of just like a lot devoting too much space to that idea. Kind of trying to attack different fronts.
Hmm.
So strength display, that's a recent add. Discard a card well, not discard a card. If that card is discarded, you can kill a card in their hand, and then also have speedy dodge to the right there. That can also do the same thing. Um, if it's still got a decent effect. Banish top 3 cards you put discard pile, lower your opponent's anger 2 levels, and shuffles right back in your life deck. So that effect is not too bad. But I'm really running it for the parenthetical, and
Hmm.
the fact that I'm conflict, um, I just feel kind of good. I just feel kind of good running that. But it's still a recent add, so it's not concrete in the deck. You'll find a good portion of the cards in this deck are still like this is I probably only have like 10 games of this deck, so there's not too much experience. But um, yeah, that's one. That's I'm just gonna say that's one of the new cards. It's been successful so far though. I
In-
like it.
Interesting. Would you consider running Black Memories, given
It
that your
was in the deck.
conflict?
I think that was probably one of the cards I just cut randomly because I wanted to fit something else in,
Yeah,
and just haven't circled back to it.
interesting.
Memories is good, 100%.
So, looking at I mean, just to wrap up the event line and the board lineup here, you do have a few cards that play off discard effects, but you have mostly tried. Again, it goes through the whole idea that you don't need to run attacks. You have a lot of these like interesting event cards that just kind of do different things. Anything from anger to some like random damage effects.
Hmm.
Um, it's very interesting. It's very interesting. Like I said,
This
like you were kind of saying about the reflection. There's definitely like maybe that is a card that could potentially make its way out. Um, the board to me seems like pretty good. I don't know if I would add more. Probably wouldn't really try to add more. I think the number's probably good
no,
on in my mind, but
it looks good to me. I mean, not saying it's perfect, but it's definitely more fleshed out and permanent than some of the other areas in the deck.
mm,
Um, I mean, to tell you the truth, like what the purpose, this is like I've been having a lot of fun with, and I when you build a deck and you build it, it's not you don't take it seriously, but like it starts, you see this going on, that going on, and it actually like wins a few games here and there,
mm.
and it's actually like better than you thought it was.
Oh
Like
yeah.
trust me, I'm not sitting here trying to advocate like a conflict deck is like gonna make ripples and waves, but like
You know,
this is just more showing off what Boo can do. Like
yeah.
he's a lot better than I gave him credit for when I first read him.
I mean, need we
So
forget
this has been
that
a cool experiment.
Tommy Andre won the Kenosha qualifier with Conflict Supreme Guy.
Uh-huh, and he
You know what I
beat me
mean?
with Conflict Spirit Power,
You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Trust me, yeah,
Or sorry, he won TOP with Supreme Kai. He played
yeah.
uh, so and I think he used Mistress Frieza. I want to say in the Kenosha qualifier to get there, but just keep that in mind that like conflict has had good decks. It has had decks that have actually like done well in a competitive format, whether or not you think they're
Mhm.
you know what I mean. So not to not to wreck on conflict too hard, but interesting. Um, we'll go into the attack lineup now. We've kind of talked a little
Uh,
bit about some of the attacks. I really like
yeah,
that you run I'll Dig Your Grave. I think Boo is just
yeah.
for
Dude,
sure
no,
just
yeah,
he profits way too
100%,
much off leveling off of Dig.
100%.
Like the double
Mhm.
attacks when you go up.
Well,
Like
dude, it's not even the leveling. It's just all that poking, not preventing. Is like 2 life cards here, 3 life cards here, 4 life cards here. You have a mod on level 3 and 4. Like um, the damage. I would much rather throw 4 attacks that do 4 life cards than 2 attacks that do like 8 life cards each.
mm,
Because you're gonna see less cards. Plus, like I said, the thing I chose conflict for is because his level will say 4 life cards. So you play dig, it's gonna make everything 4 life cards. I was playing Choke because Choke is Choke, and I'm playing a life card survival beats deck. Um, why play Choke when I can just play Dig and one make all these other life card attacks unthreatable? But also, if you look, it lets me potentially do 8 stages with Tree, and also knock their AT down for these other attacks, Black Bite and Black Lunge.
That's true. Actually, that's pretty true. I think it's the only stage damage attack that you run. So
It is correct. Um,
interesting.
so um, it's just a lot of decks. I'm always weary about leveling people with Dig. I do not do it often because just I if I don't know what's in their hand, I'd rather not do something that's gonna create more uncertainty.
That's fair.
So, but no, Dig is really really freaking good with Hero. We mentioned Candy Beam. I got the treats there. Got Candy Beam. It's 5 life cards again. Um, it's because you can banish whatever you need. Say if I'm playing orange, I'm gonna banish chocolate first. If I'm playing blue ally or whatever, I'm gonna banish cookie first so I can get to it, you know, priority if I do see a Candy Beam. But obviously it's there for the board hate, and then right above that you have 8 attacks here. Black Lunge, and just gonna be there because it's pretty much everything I want in a card. It's got endurance, it's got anger, it's got a powerful +4 life with the AT modifier, and Boo is sitting at F in his 9 and 10 stages above. He's got really good AT. Lunge is a really perfect card for him. So I've thrown lunges for like 10, 11, 12 life cards unpreventable with this deck.
Yeah, I think.
It's crazy. Lunge is so good. I love it.
Yeah.
Um, but then the other one is Black Bite. Here's only may only have one attached physical attack. If you have only one trait, which I do, attach Dragon Pig. While attached, all your non-style attacks gain 2 stages, or banish a card from your opponent's discard pile. AT +3 life. So it's doing relatively the same damage as Black Lunge, but it got a really it's an unleashed target.
Mm.
And then the attach effect, because I'm running Candy Beams, I'm running Digs, I got my powers. Every combat, I'm throwing at least 2 or 3 non-style attacks every combat. So Bite, this card came out in the last set, is crazy. It's a full-on damage attack with a good ATMP with an MP that's throwing non-style attacks constantly. So it's stage mitigation with the hit effect. It's target pile banishment for decks that like to work out of the discard pile that you have. If you can do if you level in combat with this anger and slime, you can throw 4 non-style attacks in a row and just eviscerate a discard pile.
Selectively
So
too. I
this is
think the best part is the selective
selectively is the
is
most
the good
important
part
part of
about the
it.
mastery. So, or sorry, the attack.
Um, yeah. So Bite has proven to be really good. I've gotten attached more consistently, and man, when that card is attached, um, just you gain value on every attack, and your win percentage ends up going up. It's a great freaking card. Um, and then next to that, uh, it's not in. So Black Lunge is a really good card. It's a powerhouse card. It's
Mm.
almost like but it's still somewhat vanilla. Um, Black Palm Blast is a little less straightforward. Well, it's actually probably more straightforward because it's not a physical attack. It's not doing AT life. It's still an attack that's got endurance. It does 6 life. It's a raise lower, and if they prevent it, it goes right back in the deck. So um, Boot level 2, level 3, level 4. It has rejuve effects. Being able to shuffle your deck with all that rejuve um, is going to be good for you.
So I will say this: it is like one of the few anti-anger cards in the deck. I think this and Strength Display are the only
I
cards that I'm
know,
seeing that are
I
anger,
know,
and you
I
don't run.
know.
So like you talk about Boo rejuvenating. So I can kind of understand why you would not want to run Heroic Dashing Punch, but
Hmm.
there's no Wall Breaker, no Black. What is it? Face Crunch. There's no Black Gut Crusher. Granted, that card would be bad in this deck. Um,
Hmm.
what the
Hmm.
heck else is there? I don't think there's really too many good black style cards with lower anger, but uh, you don't have any anti-anger, man. Like not even the freestyle
I
options
know.
like control anger blast,
I
wall
know.
breaker, dashing punch. Like so,
Um,
like
that's the.
how does that go? You know, like I mean this is a little preemptive on the matchup thing, but I'm just like we are almost done with the deck, and there has been 5 cards at lower anger, or sorry, 4 cards at lower anger, and I'm like, oof, 5 if you count
Well,
the crit on the overwhelming power. So
all right, but I guess look, I bet you if I ran up against like a good attention deck, this
sure,
deck is gonna get steamrolled. Like I'm
yeah.
not. This deck is gonna get steamrolled. It definitely needs better anger control. Um, the shitty part of it is that you can't run trick shot because you're running a lot of anger. When you're trying to max out the amount of attacks you have in your powers, trick shot kind of makes that difficult when all your powers now don't gain any anger whatsoever.
I was also gonna say trick
Um,
shot can't be modified, which kind of sucks too.
right. I mean, it's still gonna crit, but
Yeah.
it's not for the deck. So anti-anger options I have, that I can consider. That's kind of why I put strength display in the deck as well because it lowers 2 anger. So
Also, no
that
tug of
was
war.
good.
That's a sin.
Dude, I'm not playing Tog with B. Get out of here.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I don't think
No,
Hirobu should.
that thought actually crossed my mind. I'm like,
No,
wait,
no,
no, I
no.
don't want to play. I don't want to play that.
Hirobu should not run tug because if he does not get the auto level effect off Banishing B, but
Well, Hercule's anti-anger as well.
that is true. That is true. You know,
He's
you,
a
you can generally consistently get Hercule if you needed him for the anti-anger, but I don't feel like you're ever going to prioritize him, and the only level that lowers anger is level 1. So
I know. I So what could we add to that? What could we add?
wall breaker.
Oh,
A dashing
I
punch
mean,
is like almost too risky, I would say. Like dashing punch would actually aid you heavily though because of reflection and foreshadowing. If you did
yeah,
damage
but
damage.
seeing how reflections kind of probably on the chopping block. Not, I just don't like the idea of dash punch because I could draw it in a combat that like even though I'm gonna lower his anger,
Yeah.
he's gonna banish a lot of damage against me.
Yeah, that's fair. Um, I think I think it wouldn't be bad though because ultimately it's also skip anger, um, which is good if you.
Wallbreaker is probably the best choice because this deck has 60 endurance last time I counted,
Yeah,
and it's got
there's a lot of endurance. There's like almost every event has well, not almost every event, but like about half the events have endurance, and
uh-huh.
I think every attack has endurance other than bite and dig. Every
Hmm.
block has endurance except speed, dodge, and time.
And actually
Most of the
the
board has a lot of the board has endurance, while the declarations do.
when the new set comes
So
out, that the new black card, this deck's just gonna get more endurance.
yeah, the Shattering Strike. Oh my god, yeah,
Yeah, that thing's
that
got 3 endurance.
that card.
I have 12 cards with 3 endurance in this deck, I think. Or rather 12 or 9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Eight cards. 8 cards with 3 endurance
Yeah,
that
and
I
then
can
there's a bunch
see.
of 2 endurance cards like check and swipe and
Hmm.
declaration and such. But yeah, I think that Shattering Strike would definitely be in here for sure. Even if it
Yeah,
doesn't shuffle, it's still a 5 life, 2 anger potential. Well, so that obviously is a much better manipulative card, but so it's only
it
one
is.
anger in this, but 5 life for an anger is not the worst in the world considering it's gonna
Right.
be
Almost makes me want to play manipulative, but
yeah,
that's then and this is now. And
yeah, that's
but
true.
back to anti-anger. I'm not playing trick shot. Face crush isn't good in this deck. Um, I can Nothing
Well,
pops
face
to my
crunch
mind
gets you
immediately.
black bite. Face crunch gets you black bite.
You're not wrong.
Good times, good
You're
times.
not wrong. I could probably just cut 2 reflection for 2 face crush and call it a day, and maybe even find a wall breaker in there somewhere else.
Yeah, all things to
But
consider.
um, but yeah, Palm Blast cards are really cool. 6 life. You can't tell me that someone's not gonna just at least think about preventing that card. So it goes right back in. It's recoverable,
Yeah.
and then that does it for the attacks.
So we get into the blocks. I mean, we'll just, if you don't mind, we'll speed around the blocks because I think they're kind of pretty
Right, right. They're
self-explanatory.
Yeah,
Like
everyone
black
knows them.
swipe, pile hate is just good. You
Hmm.
run that and speedy dodge. Now, why'd you run not like run corruption with this mastery, especially corruption. Even resistance too. Resistance having 3 endurance and giving you anger. Why didn't you run those two over? Why'd you opt speedy dodge?
Um, it's still kind of just in the spirit of trying to my just negate actions.
Yeah.
So because my powers and what B can do for me, and Hercule's got 2 actions, my MP has 2 actions. Um, Speedy Dodge, where it may not be like the best card for the deck, but just in the spirit of trying to uh, increase that gap. Say you have 3 actions, I have 4 actions. Well, if I use Speedy Dodge, that could potentially put me. I'm at 4 actions, and now you're at 2 actions.
Hmm.
So Speedy Dodge can just potentially increase or widen that gap in terms of um, who has how many, who has the most actions in combat. That's really it. I was looking at corruption the other day and thinking I could run that. That can also be more anger hate as well. It's a banish too. But I can even run that or black protection. But that would be if I was like really worried about energy decks.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think people only really run black protection and like the like manipulative and perceptive
in
decks, but
self
like
null decks, yeah,
but
that's the other thing
it
too.
does give you a discard outlet, and it is
It
also
does.
like it's a double block against energy decks, which is like actually incredibly good back in the Panini days when I was like definitely ran a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
that
That too. Plus, yeah, speedy dodge. We're talking, I negate a card in their hand, and then I can also potentially discard a card by hand to trigger something.
yeah
Declaration, a black command. Um, an unleash I don't need because I play 3.
yeah,
Um,
but I do.
you know, it,
I was gonna say
Go ahead.
I like the reasoning for running it though. Like the idea is like you do have some aspects of it that you're trying to action denial people, because you can
Mm-hmm.
make up for arguably the lack of actions that maybe conflict would give you normally, versus some of the other masteries. Manipulate doesn't necessarily
Right.
give you an action, like attack action at least. It's just kind of like it gives you flexibility. Whereas, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean, and being able to spend one of your actions to like one for one trade, kind of like Devious did, was is a we know Devious was good for a reason, and you
Yeah.
do have a few cards that do
Yeah.
that, with speedy dodge, just strength display. Um, so
Yeah. Moving on from that, I've got knee catch. Pretty standard. It's got endurance, physical block. Gets me 2 anger.
mhm.
Deck wants to level. Run that. I could run delay as well. But uh, delay is probably a good ad. But I do like check for the Discord outlet. It's another anti anger. It gains me anger, and it's another targeted pile hate
Yeah.
effect with Discord. It's probably there primarily because uh, me gaining anger, I think, might be more beneficial
Have you
in the
considered
aggressive.
Black Brace?
Remind me what that card does again.
It came out last set. It's Raise Your Anger 1. Banish 2 cards of your choice out of your opponent's pile. Next time you reveal, gain 5 stages. So obviously it's more of a manipulative card, but I'm just curious if you consider that one. Ultimately, blackjack gives you the way I look at blackjack is like if you're not against a physical matchup where you don't need the block, you can pitch it for really good effects. Whereas like brace has got arguably the better immediate effects. You don't get the anti-anger, but you get like
Hmm.
the pile hate directly. Um, it would just be something to consider. I don't think it necessarily takes the check over, or I shouldn't say
I mean,
takes the
if I
spot over
wanted
check,
to,
but
yeah, I mean, if I wanted to make foreshadowing and reflection more of a have its presence felt better in the deck, no, that block is probably better than check.
yeah,
Um, but I actually forgot about the card. Gains anger.
yeah,
I guess I just don't get full use of it, so it kind of
that's fair.
makes me feel bad.
Um,
Below that, we have time, and that kind of does it.
yeah. So one thing I will say, we talked about, and this is something I didn't really bring up to Anthony when I did his thing, but I'm thinking about when looking at yours, I'm just kind of thinking like, the big strength of conflict is the crit, and I think I think it's a really good choice of deck, honestly. As far as conflict goes, I don't I don't have too many MPs that I think are actually worth exploring in conflict, but seeing your list and having you
It's not
explain it to me a
often.
bit. yeah, and having you explain this to me, I think Hero Vegeta from Awakening for sure, and I think
Oh, totally.
and Boo both also have a lot of merit with this mastery. Like you said, giving Black crit, that is in a sense anti-anger, anti-ball,
Hmm.
which are all things Black has
Oh, wait,
historically
just
struggled
not to
against.
interrupt you, but we were talking about, you said the first card that you saw with Palm Blast, the mastery says raise or lower plays anger. We
Yeah,
totally forgot about that part.
that's true. You could lower anger one with the mastery, but I would like to really see conflict to the card that lowers anger on discard. I think that would go a long way.
Agreed.
Um, I think if they started printing more cards that specifically said if discarded by mastery effect, like Grudge Draw was a really really nice add, but obviously it doesn't really fit a place. Do you think it's ultimately worth running the Tree of Might over and your Absorption Drill over running Grudge Drill? Because obviously
I
those
think
those
it,
cards compete with the slotting, right? Because Tree of Might tutors the
right.
drill and everything, and
Yeah, and then, so, uh, so Grudge Drill, I'm gonna run that because, okay, I can discard with my mastery, potentially draw a card,
well,
and
you
it
just
stays
not,
in play.
yeah, you automatically get the draw because of the timing on the
Yeah,
card. So
right.
so it's an automatic free use of mastery every time you see it.
But okay, so say I have Black Command in my hand. I discard it.
Hmm.
I discard Command, and then I discard Grudge Drill, and then I'm gonna end up leveling. That, and then I immediately lose Grudge Drill.
Sure.
It came like, it came in play. It went. It still has a power on the card. Um, but even if I put it in play and then level later in the next turn, um, I just don't like the idea of it leaving play,
Sure.
and I'm not getting. It comes in very briefly. It doesn't really stay in, for the length of the game. Whereas the Boo Drill doesn't leave when you advance level. And it just the upside of that pairing with the Boo Drill and a tree between the damage tree offers and the automatic tutor for the Boo Drill, and not to mention it's also a discard outlet.
That is true. That is true. But you already have the
Um,
mastery for that though. I mean,
I mean,
it's just an extra one though. It's not
it
bad.
is, it is it, but I don't know. I don't often use it. If I have to, I will. But
Yep.
the fact that I can also just throw anything back at the cost of a card, I just think the upside of having Tree and Boudreaux is better than once in a while getting a draw with Grudge Drill if I happen to discard it
Yeah.
um,
Well, that's
in
fair.
the one time I need it.
That's fair.
Because someone enters me, I play knee catch, I level, Drill goes away. Drill didn't do his job for that combat.
If you think about it,
So,
it almost turns into just like a pure cantrip. You know what I
hmm,
mean? That's kind of that's almost what Grudge Drill turns into in this deck because you're leveling so much. So I can see why it wouldn't be worth it in that sense because all it is ultimately I'm milling myself one because I'm losing a card to just draw a card. That's purely what the card does.
right, right.
You know what I mean? So I can totally see why, with that reasoning, of course, versus the consistent staying power of as long as they don't banish absorption drill or absorbing drill. Sorry, um, you get the repeat value.
Hmm.
So
And I mean, black is also a style that can be susceptible to a bad combat. The Boudreaux is an omni block sitting on the board for everyone's first attack. That could potentially be thrown back. So if you don't throw board hate, you have to consider the idea that whatever you throw is going to come back to you.
yeah, interesting,
So it just
interesting.
the outside's too good for me.
Um, I suppose I don't have any immediate comments on that. I really do like the list though. I am
It's
my
definitely, go ahead.
Oh, I was just in my mind. I'm like thinking like they're definitely if I was going to throw if I was personally going to make any choices, I would try to figure out how to probably throw an Antanger. I feel like you have some actually pretty good board answers. I think I did ask you about the Candy Beam and I kind of already had an answer for myself for why you ran it, but I do like the Candy Beam a lot because it shores up Black's weakness
Right.
of having board hate. But then you also have overwhelming power and oh god, what was there? Oh, the Wolf, the reloopable Wolf. Both those cards go, I think, a long way. Not to mention you can rejuvenate Candy Beam um, with your MP levels. I don't think you have any
Hmm.
selective rejuve on Boo, but
You do on
is three? Oh, three is selective rejuve.
3
Sorry.
selective rejuve, yes.
Four is still the bottom of. I think yes. Every other
Hmm.
level is like the
Bottom
bottom.
2.
Yeah. Um, I think because of the fact that you can rejuvenate the candy beam, that you can honestly like I I I think the only thing it's lacking is anti-anger really, and that's like anti-anger is just such
Hmm.
a scary matchup. Being I almost say playing your own ball 7 is kind of a counter to anger decks because a lot of the anger decks do play Earth 7 because they're trying to end
Hmm.
combat, specifically the Ascension decks. So
Yeah. I mean, again, I feel like just have to have at least one, two, or three ways to get out of combat. Um, when you're playing against anything, because
mm,
even if you're not a super aggro deck, just entering and try and swing tempo back to you, and then they play Earth 7, so now, you finally got your two-card combo that's gonna get you back in the game, and now you have to discard the other one.
yeah,
That in itself is really strong, not just against aggro decks. Though I could, now that I'm playing Declaration, if I wanted to, I could play Namek 7 and just play that game, but I feel like I just
you
start
could.
turning to a different deck, and
I
that if I do that.
considering you're playing conflict, it's kind of like come at me, bro. You know what I mean? Like you want to take it like
I
yeah,
know,
you know what I
I
mean? Like
know.
with conflict and boo, just being able to whip like 50 attacks at somebody, it could definitely be a new route to run it.
I I would it might have a place because okay,
Even
so
after image technique too with boo would be pretty good because you could smack your
yeah,
as long as your board cards hit the pile. Like for candy beam, they just have to be in discard pile banish zone, I believe, right, to
right.
do the effect. So you definitely could even consider slotting in after image technique if you wanted to do dynamic 7.
I could. That's actually a good point. But I mean, as I'll say it again, like this deck is just one of those things that like I kind of just threw together as just
Yeah,
experiment, and kind of a joke because the guys I talk to, I get Shane and Anthony give me a lot of flack for running this deck a lot. But it's kind of like I'm now running it as like a protest. Like, this deck has actually won a lot more than I think it should, so
as
I'm
I've
gonna
seen
see
in the
what it
group
can do.
chat, as I've seen the group
Yeah,
chat. So
I've actually so I've won some people over with this deck. Brandon, I finally played with it and showed him the list, and like he said the same thing. He thinks Hero Boo is a good pair of conflict, and this deck actually is not terrible.
yeah, yeah,
Um, but no, like it's far and away not close to being done. So
yeah.
um,
I'd like
I
to
like the
see.
idea. I like the ideas that you threw out.
Yeah,
It's
I like to
definitely
see.
pointing me in the right
I'd
direction.
like to see refine this. I definitely think it's got a couple routes it could go. Like you could do that ball 7 stuff, but you could
I
also do
know.
like some like
That'd be
weird.
so silly.
Yeah, you could definitely do some weird other stuff. I think Hirabu, because of how he operates, he like makes it so he gives you so much deck space.
Hmm. That's the main motivation behind the whole thing. So
Yeah, and we're seeing that in your tech choices. Definitely, there's a lot of space where it's just like, man, I could think of other cards you could definitely try out, which is super cool. I haven't even named all the cards I'm thinking of in my mind, but there's just I really like that this deck is just, like very open-ended. I think that's like probably the coolest part about it, and I really appreciate you for trying it out.
it feels like that because when I play like okay, so when I play the deck, it's not something that's gonna do a lot too early,
Hmm.
but um, almost every game I won with it, I've been down like 40-23 or 40-25 or 40-18. It just has somehow, some way has I can't put my finger on it yet, but it has like a really strong late game.
Yeah,
And decks like that are kind of fun, and like I'm still trying to figure out how it's doing that. Um, but dude, it's just been a really fun experience playing this deck. I don't really know what it wants to do yet.
probably beat someone down, huh?
Yeah, dude, it's like I said, it's got like there are games where I'm losing, and I'm like I don't know what's gonna happen, but then I just 4 turns go by, and I'm still sitting at 15 cards.
Yeah,
Because eventually you end up leveling. Eventually you get beating Hercule out, and eventually you just start rejuvening a bunch of cards. And because you're black, you got some power stuff. You got a lot of power cards in your end. So,
yeah. With that note, what do you feel are the good matchups and the bad matchups?
dude, I don't even know.
Well, in your
I
plays,
mean,
like,
go ahead. Say yourself.
oh no, no,
What
just in your
was
play, like, what has been good
that?
matchup for
I
you?
mean, anger is not going to be good. Um, Now I think I versed one enhanced deck, and I actually ended up winning that game. I think,
Mm,
if I remember correctly, for some reason. 'Cause there is a decent amount of damage the deck can throw, and you mill some cards that doesn't carry at all about endurance. But to focus in on weak points of it, a deck that can make things unpreventable or generate a ton more actions compared to me. Probably like Orange Physical is probably going to give you a hard time. Or definitely like Future Gohan doing stuff, just turn off my powers, and that kind of puts me in a really bad spot. Trying to do this stuff with my deck, this wonky stuff, where the damage is going to come out of my powers. If I can't use my powers, I'm not really going to go anywhere.
yeah,
Um, so those two things, anger, opposing rejuve decks, probably like knowledge is not going to be great. Okay, I can crit with at 4 cards, but what knowledge deck is going to put out more than like 2 balls? Um, if I'm playing black side, they might get a little greedy, but it's not the greatest matchup. So ball victory, especially knowledge, is probably not great. Anger, so ascension ball is probably not very good. Um, and I think that's all I can think of at the moment.
hmm,
Most of my games, matches I've played so far, have kind of been all over the place. I haven't really had one matchup very consistently, and I haven't really. This is like one of those decks that is beginning to be a serious deck in
yeah,
terms of like how much time you want to put into it.
yeah, for
Um,
sure, for
so yeah,
sure. It's a
even before we started this recording, you mentioned me the questions that you were going to ask. Like when you asked me
yeah.
what the good matchups and bad matchups were, I was like, oh shit, I don't not sold on that just yet, but
Yeah.
um, so I guess I'll pass. I mean, it's if you want me to give you good matchups, I mean, I'm a conflict deck. Do I really have that many good matchups? Honestly,
I don't know. I don't know. There's
to be
arguments you
real.
made, that you are good against allies because you can crit easier ball because you can crit easier. But well, it's okay. I don't necessarily think this deck is. I think this is definitely obviously from speaking to you, it's a deck that's got to kind of still find its like stride. Like
Hmm.
it's up and coming. It's like working. You're finding stuff that's fitting. Now it's just a matter of finding like tweaking it around, maybe trying a few more cards, seeing how that works with you and your
Uh huh.
playstyle. And that's what I think. That's what I think what makes this deck a bit unique versus some other ones I've reviewed is people. This is a deck that is new. This is a deck that is like very much like I said, open it earlier, where it's like I really think that this is something that is like maybe Black Blue is underexplored in a sense. Um, for sure, conflict. A lot of people play manipulative, but for sure, conflict's got a lot that you can do
Hmm.
with it. Manipulative really does want you to play a lot of attacks, whereas like conflict can and like I'd almost say mischievous will like allow you to and will like allow you to like not have to play a ton of attacks. So
Yeah.
seeing this in black, being able to take advantage of the strong power cards of black that aren't attacks, while also running the highly synergistic attack cards, and knowing that you've had success with it is really really cool. I'm really really happy, and I think this is exactly the kind of deck that needs to decks like this need to be the decks that get explored the most. I think they're the coolest, whether or not they're outright the easiest to build, or outright like tier one in anybody's mind. These I think are the decks that are really just needed for the format to be exciting for deck builders, which you are a deck builder. You are somebody that enjoys building decks, and it's fun. I'm just super. It's super fun that you thought that this deck was a troll deck, and now here you are, just like, oh my god, it's actually good. You take the time to develop it,
I know,
so it's gonna
and
definitely catch
it's
people by surprise. I feel.
and the more times I'm told the deck's not supposed to win, it sucks. The more I want to put time into it.
Hmm.
Like it's when the deck's doing what it's doing, I'm just sitting here like I don't like if I'm asked like what's going on or what's it doing, I'm just like, dude, I don't even know. I'm just having fun playing these cards. This deck is so much fun to play.
That's good. I'm glad.
Yeah, yeah. It's a um again, there's hopefully there's some other cards that come out in the new set that I can add to this. And I know you mentioned the not to
But
dive
Black
into
Shattering Strike, yeah.
Yeah. When that card comes out, if depending on how it changes, this deck could actually become uh, a manipulative deck.
Yeah.
Just because getting 2 anger on the defense like that it's gotta be so good.
Yeah.
And it's another 3 endurance card. It probably takes Palm Blast's slot immediately.
I'd like to see a little bit more conflict support. And I'd like to see perceptive support. Honestly, I would
Same.
love to see those two masters get supported. I think manipulative is like fine as is. I mean, if one or two more cards, then it's undoubtedly tier one. Like
Hmm.
no contest. I already think manipulative is uh side conversation. I think manipulative is the best master in its set, but
Man, dude.
it's
Okay, so you say that, and then every time I find myself building manipulative, dude,
my mind is
I just
blown every time.
I struggle like I get halfway through the deck and I'm like, what do I want to do? I don't know where
That's
to go.
literally, yeah, and that's why I think it's so
I am
good
not
though. That's why it's so
I am
good.
not good at building manipulative. I'm not
I
good at it.
I'm challenged by that master, and that's how I know it's a good master because I'm like, oh,
Uh,
there's not a set sauce
dude,
for this master, and that's the best part.
the banishment is so strong.
Yeah.
It's so silly.
Anyway, don't want to get too off the topic, but Kev, I want to thank you
Right.
for coming in and sharing this deck. If anybody
Of
has actually
course.
stuck to the end of
I
this
wanted to.
video, I doubt many people will, but I really appreciate anybody who watches to the end, and I hope you guys are enjoying the series. I think it's really fun, like I said, and I will continue to say at the end of these videos. If you have a deck idea that you would like to share and you'd like to profile, shoot me a message over Facebook or YouTube. I'll try to get back to you and probably set something up. Um, yeah, I've been really enjoying these. Again, thanks, Kev.
They've been
And
great listening to on my end as well.
yeah, oh, I'm
Your
glad.
other videos. They've
I'm
been
glad.
great.
And
Gets
guys,
me through the workday.
yeah, perf. And just get out there, get playing. Like I said, I think the funnest stuff right now is the lower tier stuff, and then kind of work your way up. But
Hmm.
I'm really looking forward, as of the recording of this video, to Movie Collection 3, and I think it'll be really good. So,
Hmm. Looking forward to it.
absolutely.
Thanks for the time, man.
Yeah,
It's been
absolutely.
fun.
But take it easy, guys. Peace. And
See ya.
that is the video.
Sick. All right. How long is it? How long is it?
Good question. Let me take. Oh, hey. Whoops.